Please welcome our next presenter, Lisa Hamp.
On April 16th, 2007, 2 weeks after my 21st birthday, I was sitting in class at Virginia Tech when I heard an unfamiliar popping sound that sounded like gunfire. Deep down, I knew something wasn't right. During the next 11 minutes, my classmates and I laid on the floor, pushing the desks and chairs against the door, while the gunman shot at our door and tried to push it open. In those terrible minutes, the gunman killed 30 and injured many other students and professors. Fortunate, lucky, blessed. That's what I was told since I wasn't shot. But lonely, scared, anxious, that's how I felt. When I reflect back on those first few months after the shooting, I think about how naive I was to think I wasn't impacted. Immediately after the shooting, I attended candlelight vigils, moments of silence, a memorial convocation, and special church services. But after a few short weeks, all those events dissipated. Everyone around me appeared to return to a normal life without any issues, so I figured that's what I needed to do too. On the outside, I appeared to return to a normal life as well, but on the inside, I was struggling. I was having nightmares, the really gruesome kind, but sharing them with no one. I didn't know how to respond to questions about the shooting. I hated being in public, especially classrooms, gyms, movie theaters, and churches. I became hyper-vigilant when I heard popping sounds and was suspicious of most strangers. I wish someone had told me that these things were normal to experience after surviving a shooting and witnessing mass violence. I didn't like the uncomfortable feelings, so without even realizing it, I started using food and exercise to cope. I stopped being present because for 11 minutes, being present really sucked. I constantly felt vulnerable because for 11 minutes, I was really vulnerable. I started running 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons to get away from those uncomfortable feelings, but I could never run far enough. My untreated PTSD eventually developed into an eating disorder. 8 years after the shooting, I decided to listen to the teeny voice inside my head that I'd been shutting out. That voice was saying, "Go see a counselor about your obsession with food, exercise, and body image." When I began my recovery, I set out with expectations similar to the image on the left. What I learned is that recovery looks a lot more like the image on the right. Some days it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Other days it's 1 step forward and 2 steps back. But if you stick with it and stay present, you'll end up where you want to be. During recovery, I realized that I had created a secondary problem, an eating disorder, to escape the primary problem, PTSD. When I was 21, I didn't have a clue what prioritizing your self-care meant, and I thought recovery were for those who were shot. I've since learned that trauma occurs in a variety of forms and to varying degrees. It has a lasting effect on those who experience it. For a long time, I underestimated the effect it had on me. But here's what I learned. First, going out in public would be hard. I had a tremendous fear of it happening again. Many people would tell me it wouldn't happen again, but I thought to myself, they don't know that. I finally accepted there's no guarantee that it won't happen again. Second, I learned to feel the uncomfortable feelings. I felt the survivor's guilt, fear, anxiety, sadness, loneliness, helplessness, and self-doubt. I learned that these feelings were telling me something, and I finally confronted them in a gentle and loving way. Third, I found good listeners. My recovery made great strides when I began connecting with other survivors, Virginia Tech, Columbine, and Sandy Hook. These people helped me feel less lonely. They understood what it was like to be impacted by a mass shooting, and because of this, we bonded. We connected on a level deeper than I connect with some of my closest family and friends. And fourth, I learned you can't call it quits on counseling too early. I had never been to counseling before, and I wasn't sure how it worked. You have to show up, both physically and mentally, and be honest. I had to trust my therapist with my most vulnerable feelings. These 4 lessons empowered me. They enabled me to rebuild my self-confidence, make peace with this tragedy, and recover from my eating disorder. In the process, I discovered a new passion for educating schools and workplaces on how to improve their safety plans and help others who've experienced mass violence. Thank you.